The situation between Sam Carling, a Labour MP, and Nigel Farage, one of Britain's most prominent politicians, has attracted the attention of both MPs and the general public. It all started when Carling publicly accused Farage of violating the parliamentary code of conduct related to the latter's visit to his constituency. This statement was not just another political skirmish, but sparked a deeper debate about compliance in British political life, a breach of transparency and respect between MPs. Carling argued that Farage's visit to his constituency was a clear example of disregard for these norms and created risks for further deterioration of relations in Parliament. This sparked a storm of reactions among Carling and Farage's colleagues, as well as among ordinary voters who began to voice their opinions via social media and news sites. Carling, known for his outspoken statements on health privatization, could not let go of the actions of Farage, who he said had committed misconduct despite an existing code of conduct. The crux of Carling's allegations was that Farage, as an MP, had not notified him in advance of a visit to Carling's constituency, a breach of the rule that every MP must notify a colleague if he is going to visit his constituency. Carling was particularly angered that Farage's visit concerned an important political topic: the privatization of the NHS National Health Service. In Carling's view, such a visit not only broke formal rules but was an attempt to sway public opinion without taking into account the views of local MPs. However, in response to this, Farage tried to justify himself by claiming that his visit was not political, but merely private, and therefore did not require notification. He emphasized that, despite his political activities, he was not obliged to follow all formal rules, especially if it was a personal trip. His point was that he, as the leader of the party, was free to visit any part of the country and meet with constituents, regardless of who represented the constituency. Such an argument only added fuel to the fire, and the conflict quickly gained traction in the media. In addition, it became known that Farage's visit to Carling County was not the first such case. Previously, Farage had repeatedly visited other MPs' constituencies without prior notice, as confirmed by sources in Parliament. Some of these incidents caused outrage among Farage's colleagues, but they went unnoticed until Carling raised the issue in Parliament. In one such incident in particular, which occurred a few months ago, Farage also failed to alert MPs to his visit to the constituency, leading to a conflict with local authorities. However, the event was not widely publicized at the time, because it did not involve hot political topics such as healthcare privatization. This tension between Carling and Farage soon became a topic of discussion at the highest levels, and many political observers began to focus on the situation as a landmark moment in British political life. The Speaker of Parliament, who was forced to intervene in the situation, reminded all MPs of the obligation to adhere to the code of conduct. His statement emphasized that, despite private visits, MPs should adhere to general norms and inform colleagues if their visit had anything to do with political activity. However, contrary to expectations, the Speaker of Parliament did not take strict action against Farage, sparking fresh debate about how effectively Parliament monitors compliance with its own rules. Carling, not satisfied with the answers, decided to continue the fight for parliamentary compliance and actively use his media to raise awareness. He released a YouTube video explaining his point of view in detail, encouraging the public to express their views. The video quickly went viral and garnered thousands of comments, with people expressing their opinions on the situation. In many ways, the video became a way to mobilize Carling and Labour supporters, as well as create pressure on Parliament to pass judgment on Farage's actions. It signaled that the conflict between the two politicians had become not just an internal parliamentary affair, but a broad public issue. Viewers on social media and news forums began to actively share their opinions. Many supported Carling, believing his actions were justified because they addressed broader issues of democracy and ethics in politics, while others argued that Carling was using the case for personal gain and to increase his popularity among the electorate, escalating relations in Parliament for the sake of political infighting. Discussions on the forums sometimes became personal, with some users claiming that Carling was trying to overshadow more important issues such as economic instability in pursuit of his own political career. Among other things, the incident also drew attention to a deeper political issue in the UK: how open and transparent the parliamentary process should be. Previously, there have been cases of various MPs using their official visits to constituencies for political purposes, not always in an ethical manner. And now that this situation has become more visible, there have been proposals to change or even tighten the code of conduct for MPs. Meanwhile, Carling continued to raise questions not only about the specific Farage incident, but also about possible changes to the parliamentary system that could improve the transparency of MPs' actions and increase citizens' trust. Farage, of course, was not left out of these discussions. He continued to assure that his actions were legal and did not violate any rules. He also suggested that Carling and his Labour Party supporters were merely using the incident as a political tool to attack his party in an attempt to smear his reputation. Carling responded by saying that in the case of Farage, it was not about his reputation, but that the MP's actions violated crucial norms that all members of government must abide by. This clash continued to develop and, despite the initial statements from both sides, it became an important indicator for future political discussions in the UK. After Sam Carling made his formal complaint to Parliament, accusing Nigel Farage of breaching the Parliamentary Code of Conduct, the situation began to develop with unexpected speed. The issue Carling raised was not only about his personal grievances against Farage, but also about wider political principles. In response to the incident, the Speaker of Parliament reminded all MPs present of the mandatory standards of conduct that all MPs must observe when visiting other MPs' constituencies. These reminders seemed intended to be a formal procedure, but they only served to heighten the tension surrounding the incident, especially when it became clear that this was not the first time that the parliamentary code had been breached. The Speaker of Parliament, with restraint and without much emotion, reminded all MPs every MP is obliged to inform his colleagues if he intends to visit their constituency. This requirement is spelled out in Section 43 of the Code of Conduct, which aims to ensure openness and honesty in the political life of the country. This rule was introduced many years ago for a reason. It ensures that MPs representing different parts of the UK can work in a constructive and respectful atmosphere without creating conflict situations due to unexpected visits. If the MP's visit is of a private nature, they are still obliged to inform their colleagues to avoid misunderstandings and accusations of unethical behaviour. In this situation, it was significant that Farage was unable to provide convincing arguments to justify his behaviour. Unlike other deputies who might have cited a private visit or other reasons for not informing, Farage attempted to argue that the visit to Carling's district was solely related to his political activities. However, Carling argued that he was unaware of Farage's plans and therefore could not have prepared the public for the possible consequences of the visit. He expressed his concern that Farage's actions could have harmed his district and destroyed trust between local residents and deputies. In his statement, Carling argued that Farage's visit was aimed at spreading false information about Labour's policies, a fact that should have been discussed in Parliament rather than left out of official deliberations. The incident continued to gain traction in the media and soon attracted the attention not only of MPs but also of the public. New publications appeared every day discussing Farage and Carling's actions and their implications for future political debates. It was impossible not to notice that there was a real concern in the political environment about how such situations could undermine trust in the institutions of Parliament and create a climate of distrust between politicians. One analyst working for a prominent British publication even argued that this case could be a turning point in the political struggle between the left and the right in the UK. He talked about how the situation of the Code of Conduct violation has become a symbol of deeper issues that could overshadow the most important political issues in the future. In his view, the political conflict surrounding the incident threatened to ignite a new round of confrontation that could further divide British politics. Farage, with his reputation as a rather tough and even provocative politician, did not stand aside and denied the accusations made by Carling. He claimed that the visit was part of his long-term campaign to draw attention to issues that he felt were being ignored by the government. Moreover, Farage claimed that Carling, having been in Parliament for several years, knew the rules but used the incident as an opportunity for a political attack. His responses also included accusations that Carling was trying to use the incident to increase his personal popularity and spin on the backdrop of a political issue under discussion. This statement by Farage sparked a new wave of discussion. Carling, for his part, took umbrage at this stance, believing that Farage was showing a complete disregard for parliamentary etiquette and violating basic principles in political life. Carling argued that if politicians start disregarding the rules of behavior, it could lead to the destruction of all the foundations of democracy and political integrity in the country. In response to this, Farage went on to argue that in the current political situation in the UK, with the issues of private business and privatization becoming more prominent, one should not stick to formal procedures but rather act on the principle of urgency and necessity. This rhetoric of Farage, designed to emphasize the importance of his campaign, only increased the negative background around the incident. Carling, on the other hand, pointed out in his statement that Farage's visit to his district was another example of how political ambition can overshadow the real concerns of citizens. He argued that Farage, as the leader of a political party, should not allow himself to act without prior approvals and consultation, especially when it comes to significant and sensitive issues such as the health and welfare of citizens. Carling emphasized that every MP has a duty to respect the interests of the electorate, and that breaking these norms could be perceived as an attempt to manipulate public opinion. By this time, it had become apparent that the incident, despite its initial simplicity, had taken on much deeper political implications. The situation surrounding Farage's breach of the code of conduct demonstrated how easily trust between MPs is undermined, and also raised the important question of what action should be taken in such cases. The situation continued in the media as well, where each new day brought new details. The Speaker of Parliament finally decided to bring the issue to a formal discussion to reiterate the need to continue to observe parliamentary etiquette and ensure respect for the rules created to protect the interests of citizens. This entailed new challenges for the British political system. The question of MPs' behaviour and their duties in the context of increased political competition became more and more relevant, and many experts noted that this case could be a harbinger of deeper changes in parliamentary relations and domestic politics in the UK. With each passing day, the incident surrounding Nigel Farage and Sam Carling became more and more discussed, and interest in what was happening in Parliament grew. Eventually, after days of heated discussion and debate, the British public had the final say. The discussions went beyond Parliament itself and began to unfold on social media as well as on news platforms. In particular, Carling, an active user of these channels, encouraged viewers to voice their opinions on the situation by leaving comments under the video. He also remembered to remind everyone of the importance of subscribing to the channel, as he promised to provide even more content on current UK political events in the future. His YouTube video attracted considerable attention, and people's opinions became an important indicator of how Farage and Carling's actions are perceived in the public eye. In the aftermath, amidst intense debate, Carling attempted to further strengthen his position by stating that Farage's very visit to his constituency was not only a breach of the code of conduct, but a direct attempt to interfere in local politics. He recalled that Farage's actions may have led to the dissemination of inaccurate information about healthcare reforms and served as a destabilizing factor in the eyes of voters. In his video, Carling emphasized that public opinion should be an important element in influencing the decision of Parliament, and invited his supporters to become more involved in the process of discussing future policy initiatives. This attempt to engage the public in a dialogue with parliamentarians was met both positively and critically. Some critics argued that Carling was using the incident solely as a way to draw attention to himself, while supporters emphasized the importance of open discussion among the general public. Meanwhile, reactions to the video on social media became increasingly vocal. Many users commented that Farage's visit was actually just an excuse for Carling to show his political activism. In addition, even those who did not support Labour expressed the opinion that Carling did the right thing by demanding parliamentary norms. On social media, many supported his claim that Farage had used two standards in his political practice. The case allowed Carling to express his opinion on how important it is for Parliament to uphold basic ethical standards despite political differences. Meanwhile, in response to such widespread discussion, Farage continued to claim that he had not broken any laws and that his visit was purely political. He said he used the trip to reiterate his position on the issue of healthcare privatization, which he and his party have been pushing for years. He said Carling and his supporters are trying to turn the situation into a storm in a glass of water by diverting attention from the real problems facing the country. He assured that the visit was purely business, and even offered Carling a joint discussion on health policy, though with the implication that Carling would likely not agree to such a proposal. Farage's position continued to grow stronger among his supporters, and as a consequence, his involvement in the debate gained increasing popularity among Conservative voters. Eventually, Carling, realizing that one side of public opinion was influenced by his actions and the other side by Farage's confidence statements, decided to finally take stock of the situation after all. In a new video he posted on his channel, he reiterated that the importance of upholding the norms of parliamentarism cannot be downplayed, and that even small infractions must have consequences. In his address, Carling addressed the broader issue of political accountability and how important it is for MPs to work to build trust between themselves and their constituents. He reminded that the controversy surrounding this incident may not only be a lesson for Parliament, but also a signal to the entire political system of the UK that it is necessary to change the established rules and approaches to interaction between different political forces. In parallel, Carling did not forget to emphasize that Farage's visit was only a symptom of a much deeper problem, which is that the party to which he belongs continues to ignore crucial issues relating to health and social services. In his eyes, Farage's actions have come to symbolize the fight to privatize the NHS, which he believes will have devastating consequences for the entire health system. Despite internal criticism from some Labour MPs, Carling remained committed to his position and claimed that he had a duty to fight for justice, which in his eyes was in danger. Concluding the discussion, Carling also returned to the important idea that the behavior of MPs, especially those in high political positions, will always influence the public perception of politics. He emphasized the need to take an active role in current issues and not let personal ambitions overshadow important public issues. Carling concluded the video by summarizing that Britain's future depends on how we can find a balance between personal political struggles and the public interest. For his part, Farage was not slow to respond, saying that Carling's appeal to the public was merely an attempt to create an illusion of the importance of his actions. He said that it was important not to forget who actually represents the interests of the majority of citizens, and that his campaign to privatize the NHS had no hidden agenda. These statements were another milestone in their political confrontation, which is likely to continue into the future.